Have a picture. And this is what we're finding out per multiple federal law enforcement sources to our own Bill Malhusian. The Austin mass shooter is a 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen who was born in Senegal.
As more and more illegal immigrants pile up to enter Europe, encouraged by woke, open border and multicultural policies, the woke also believe that promoting a narrative in which everything Islamic is portrayed as noble, while everything Western is framed as evil, will not have a demographic and cultural shift in Europe. Neo-Marxists believe demographic saturation is not a real thing. Namely, if the UK becomes 80% Afghans, this will not change the cultural and demographic profile of the country. And whoever thinks otherwise is racist. Woke leftists also think that calling atrocities like the October 7th attacks noble and blaming all the evils in the world on the West will not have a cultural impact against liberty and human rights. Namely, if dictators and terrorists are portrayed as noble, while the free world is portrayed as evil in the minds of new generations, that will not shift culture to an Islamist, Marxist narrative. In this video, I analyze why woke radical leftists think this way.
Well, first, let me just say, the idea that Israel wants to starve the Palestinians is vile. It is another left-wing atrocity on language, like Israel is committing genocide. Genocide has been raped, like the word racism has been raped. Every decent term has been denuded of its meaning by people on the left, not by liberals, I always draw that distinction, but by people like Cenk. They have raped the word genocide, they have raped the word racism, they have raped the word sexual attack. All the evils have been removed from their context.
Here's the clear, accurate explanation of why woke, critical social justice activism uses extreme, moralized, apocalyptic language. Genocide, fascist, white supremacist, colonizer, racist, harmful speech, systemic violence. This language is not accidental. It is a logical product of their worldview. 1. It comes from the oppressor-oppressed worldview, neo-Marxist structure. In classical Marxism, social conflict is explained through an economic binary rooted in class struggle. Bourgeoisie, the owners of capital, factories and production, the oppressors. Proletariat, the working class who sell their labour, the oppressed. Marx believed that all major social tensions arise from this fundamental economic conflict between those who control production and those who are exploited by it. In modern critical social justice ideology, or neo-Marxist thought, the focus of social conflict shifts from economic class to identity. Dominant identity groups perceived to hold social, cultural, or political power, marginalized identity groups perceived to be disadvantaged, disenfranchised, or excluded, the oppressed. The core idea is that power is exercised through cultural, institutional, and structural means, not only through control of economic resources. In classical Marxism, disputes are explained objectively: profit, wages, and ownership. No individual or group is morally evil in a personal sense. The conflict is structural. Shift to identity. Neo-Marxism, critical social justice. Identity is tied to lived experience. Harm is personal, visible, and emotional. Power is moralized. Those who hold it are seen as privileged or exploitative, not just structurally advantaged. Oppression is perceived as intentional. Even systemic or cultural advantages are interpreted as morally wrong. When politics is framed as a moral struggle, every conflict becomes evil oppressor harming innocent oppressed group. That moral binary encourages morally extreme language.
Chanting and leading a chant with thousands joining in of death to the IDF, you instinctively believe...
He said it himself. He said...
Oh, no, he said it since. So you accept then that the rapper was talking about soldiers?
No,
You don't.
people call for the death of the Russian army all the time.
Do you believe him 100%?
Yes.
That when he said death to the IDF, he didn't mean individuals. Do you believe that?
Well, he's actually unlike. I mean, this is the irony. Do you know what the irony is?
Well, just answer my question first.
Yes, I do.
Because new footage has emerged.
And death to every single IDF soldier out there as an agent of terror.
I've known you a long time. I have a lot of respect for you. You just have to admit, when you hear that, you were wrong to defend him in the way you defended him. He didn't mean IDF.
The people I was defending.
He didn't mean IDF the entity. He did it. But you accept now that you were wrong. He didn't mean that.
I didn't hear.
2. It comes from critical theory's neo-Marxist idea of systemic violence. The Frankfurt School, Horkheimer, Marcuse, introduced the idea that violence doesn't need guns. Systems themselves are violent. Thus, economic inequality equals violence. Cultural norms equals violence. Language equals violence. Disagreement equals violence. If normal social structures equals violence, then activists feel justified in calling them genocide, fascism, oppression, harm. Because to them, the violence is invisible but omnipresent.
Take it back, I do not condemn the elimination of those 2 Zionist officials who worked at the Israeli embassy last night. And do not let yourself be fooled by the media, by the Zionists in this country who are telling you that this was an anti-Semitic terrorist attack. But I want to urge you first to support Elias's actions. He is not a terrorist. He's a resistance fighter. This attack is being used to weaponize violence against the movement, but we will meet it with our own greater resistance and escalation.
3. It comes from Foucault's idea that power is everywhere. Foucault argued, power is not held by individuals. Power is embedded in language, norms, and categories. Discourse shapes reality. So, language equals power equals violence equals control. This is why activists treat words as weapons. A person's speech can be labelled genocide, harm, racism. Because in this worldview, language shapes oppression, and therefore, language is a powerful tool against oppression. 4. It comes from post-colonial theory's moral framing. Post-colonial theorists, Said, Fanon, Spivak, reframed history as colonizer equals evil, colonized equals morally pure victim. This creates an absolute moral narrative with no nuance. Thus, any conflict is automatically framed as colonization, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, genocide, especially the Israel-Palestine issue, which post-colonial thinkers interpret in a binary moral frame, not a geopolitical one.
Gaza has changed everything. The genocide there is a genocide made in America, and people can see it. The empire has never been this exposed. From the moment we're born, we're told the United States represents freedom, democracy, and human rights. All that is American as apple pie, except it's a lie. Anywhere hope springs up, the United States will be not far behind to try and extinguish that hope.
The destruction we see in Palestine is exactly and precisely what settler colonialism does. This is what the settler colonial genocide is. The destruction is, of course, physical and biological. It's a devastation of the group in order to take control of the land.
5. It comes from intersectionality's matrix of oppression. Intersectionality teaches every marginalized group is linked in a global system of oppression, so harm against one oppressed identity is treated as harm against all. That amplifies language. A minor conflict becomes universalized, existential, connected to every struggle. So language escalates from unfair, harmful, violent, genocidal.
End the genocide. End the genocide. It's not a war. In order to have a war, I mean, look, I hear you speaking and I respect you a lot, but
6. It comes from activist moral psychology. Activist movements use apocalyptic moral framing because moral urgency motivates activism. Extreme language justifies extreme protest. Catastrophizing creates solidarity. Being a protector of the oppressed boosts status inside the group. Moderation is seen as complicity. In-group moral pressure forces activists to use the most extreme possible vocabulary.
Let's get into the details of the criticism, Ms. Albanese. Last summer, you endorsed a tweet comparing Benjamin Netanyahu to Hitler. Why did you do that?
No. The Twitter was about the tweet was about something else. The tweet
there was a picture of Hitler with a picture of Netanyahu, and you wrote under that tweet, "This is exactly what I was thinking."
7. It comes from effective polarization and campus culture. In universities, the hierarchy is oppressed equals morally superior, oppressor equals morally corrupt. Strong language becomes a marker of moral identity. Using extreme terms signals awareness, virtue, loyalty to the cause. So activists escalate their rhetoric to signal their commitment. 8. It comes from rejecting liberal nuance. Liberalism values debate, tolerance, complexity, ambiguity. Critical social justice sees nuance as excusing oppression, minimizing harm, protecting power structures. Therefore, extreme language replaces nuanced language. Clear summary. Modern woke activist language is extreme because it inherits Marx's oppressor-oppressed binary, it inherits critical theory's idea of invisible systemic violence, it inherits Foucault's idea that language equals power equals violence, it inherits post-colonial moral absolutism, it inherits intersectional universalization of harm, it uses moral hyperbole to fuel activism, it views nuance and moderation as complicity, it sees language itself as violence, so rhetoric escalates. That's why every conflict becomes genocide, every opponent becomes fascist, and every disagreement becomes violence. It's a feature of the ideology, not a misuse.